Hello and welcome. Today, we're going to dive into some seriously high-level vocabulary pulled directly from a real academic passage. The goal here is pretty simple. Help you master the kind of language that's going to boost your IELTS score, all while we explore the really interesting connection between education and the economy. So, let's get right into it.
So here it is, the big question at the heart of the text we're looking at. Does education really fuel economic growth? I mean, we all kind of assume the answer is yes, of course it does. But the real story, well, it's way more complex than that. And today, we're going to learn the exact language you need to talk about this in a really sophisticated way.
And that's exactly why we're here, right? To tackle a huge question like this, you need more than just simple words. You need precise academic phrases, what we call collocations. We've handpicked 19 of the most powerful ones from this passage, and I promise, by the end of this, they're going to be a key part of your vocabulary toolkit.
Okay, let's start with our first set of tools. I want you to think of these phrases as the foundation for your argument. They're just perfect for laying out the basic facts and setting the scene before you dive into your deeper analysis.
So this first group is all about how we talk about data. You know, when you're working with a massive amount of information, you've got a huge database. When you're looking at several different signs to measure something, not just one, you're using multiple indicators. And when you're talking specifically about skills in reading and math, you'd refer to literacy and numeracy levels.
Now let's see multiple indicators in action. This phrase is just fantastic. It shows the examiner you can think beyond one simple number. So, instead of only talking about money or GDP, you can broaden the whole conversation to include things like health and education. It proves you can handle complex ideas, drawing from a huge database and considering things like literacy and numeracy levels.
All right, let's keep building. This next group of phrases helps you describe people and whole populations. Personal possessions is pretty straightforward, and then you have worldly goods, which means the same thing but sounds a little more formal, a little more literary. And then we have this perfect pair for making comparisons: high literacy rate versus mediocre literacy rates. Do you see how this example makes a direct comparison? This kind of structure is gold for writing task 2. It lets you contrast two different scenarios and shows a really sophisticated grasp of the topic. And listen to that word mediocre. Using a specific word like that instead of just average or okay is such an easy way to level up your vocabulary score. It's precise. It means it's just meh, not impressive.
Okay, so we've laid the groundwork. Now let's get to the engine of your essay. This next set of tools is all about actually building your argument. You know, analyzing relationships, showing that things are complex, and talking about cause and effect.
These three phrases are absolute essentials for this topic. Economic growth, that's the increase in a country's wealth. A causal link is a really academic way to talk about a cause and effect relationship. And to work more productively means getting more done in less time, which, as you can imagine, is a huge driver of that growth.
Look at the power in that phrase, causal link. You're not just saying, this causes that. It sounds much more cautious and academic. It shows you understand that the connection might not be 100% proven. So, you could argue that if people work more productively, it should lead to economic growth, but proving a direct causal link is where it gets tricky.
Okay, now let's talk about adding some nuance. How do you show that you get that things aren't always simple? Well, these phrases are perfect. Something that's far from straightforward is just really, really complicated. Over the long term is for talking about things that take time. And a tipping point, that's that one critical moment where everything changes.
I absolutely love this phrase, far from straightforward. It's a C2 level, top-tier way of saying it's complicated, and it will instantly make your writing sound more advanced. You can use it to explain that a solution won't happen tomorrow, but maybe over the long term, we could reach a tipping point. That one little change that suddenly causes a massive, unstoppable effect. See how these three work together?
And now for our final toolkit. Honestly, these are the phrases that can really push your score up into that band 8 or 9 territory. They are perfect for discussing problems, talking about solutions, and analyzing potential outcomes in a really sophisticated way.
If you get a problem-solution essay, this group of phrases is an absolute gift. You've got obstacles that stifled industry. These are the barriers holding things back. Then there's held back innovation, which means new ideas were being prevented. And on the flip side, the potential benefits, all the good things that could happen if you solve the problem.
That verb, stifle, It's just so powerful, isn't it? It means to suffocate something, to choke it. It's so much more descriptive than just saying stopped. So these obstacles didn't just stop industry, they smothered it. And when you do that, you hold back innovation, and you stop a country from ever seeing the potential benefits of those new ideas.
Okay, our last group here has 3 phrases that are all a bit different, but each one is super powerful in its own way. To be economically productive is to contribute to the economy. To hold wealth constant is a very specific scientific term you'd use when talking about research. And an act of defiance is a great way to describe a protest or a rebellion.
This phrase, economically productive, is brilliant for your conclusion or a paragraph about solutions. It clearly states the end goal of so many government policies. Now, hold wealth constant is probably something you'd mention if you were discussing the details of a study, and act of defiance could describe a protest against an economic policy. But economically productive is the one you'll probably use the most to describe the ideal outcome for people in an economy.
Whew! Okay, we have covered a lot of ground, and you've just built a full toolkit with 19 really powerful phrases. So let's do a quick-fire review right now just to help lock them into your memory. You ready?
Let's run through them. First, the tools for describing a situation. Huge database, multiple indicators, literacy and numeracy levels, and personal possessions. Worldly goods, and high or mediocre literacy rate. Next, our tools for building an argument. Economic growth, causal link, work more productively. Then, far from straightforward, over the long term, and tipping point. And finally, our advanced analysis tools. Obstacles that stifled industry, held back innovation, potential benefits, and to finish, economically productive, hold wealth constant, and act of defiance. That is your full toolkit.
So the big question is, which one are you going to use first? Because the absolute key here is to not just learn these phrases, but to actually start using them. Pick 1 or 2 right now and just try to make a sentence with them. I'm telling you, that is the fastest way to make this powerful language your own. Thanks for tuning in.